My dear ones, if only you could have seen that day through my eyes. It was raining, not the soft, comforting rain of spring, but that cold, relentless drizzle that seems to soak into your bones, the kind that whispers old secrets back to you. The sky was gray, heavy, as though it knew something no one else did. My husband, my beloved Henry, had passed just 2 days earlier, and the house was quiet in a way that made my chest ache. His chair sat empty at the dining table, and I could still see his coat hanging by the door, untouched, his scarf draped over it as if waiting for him to return. I walked into the chapel trembling, my hands clutching the worn edges of my shawl. The smell of polished wood and faint incense clung to the air. People murmured quietly, but I felt as though their words were distant echoes, like they were underwater, muffled and meaningless compared to the thunder roaring in my own chest. And then, I saw him. My grandson Peter. He was standing near the front, tall, silent, his dark eyes fixed on me. My heart caught in my throat. He had always been difficult, yes, but never like this. Today there was something I couldn't name. Some shadow that had fallen across him, some weight pressing down. And then, in a voice so quiet I almost didn't hear it over the rain tapping against the chapel windows, he said, "You should have been in the coffin, not him." I froze. The words didn't sound like him, not my little boy who used to curl up on my lap and ask for stories at bedtime. No, these were the words of a stranger, dripping with something dark, something old, something dangerous. I remember gripping my shawl tighter, feeling the wet fabric beneath my fingers and thinking, is this real? Am I hearing this? But yet, I heard every word, and the people around me didn't. Or if they did, they didn't react. They were too busy murmuring their condolences, shaking my hand, offering tissues. But I knew. I knew that the storm had come not just outside but here in the room, in him. I stepped closer to him, my voice trembling as I spoke. "Peter, what do you mean by that?" My words sounded fragile like cracked porcelain, but I had to know. And he looked at me, those dark, stormy eyes of his, and whispered again. "I mean, you should have gone first. And now we're done pretending." Oh, my dear, my heart felt as though it had been clawed out and placed on ice. I wanted to scream, to cry, to grab him and shake him until he remembered me. His grandmother, the woman who had raised him when no one else did. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled. A small, quiet smile. A smile that hid everything I was feeling, everything I had endured, everything I had kept secret for 47 years. Because you see, my dears, I had a secret. A secret so deep, so carefully hidden, that even Henry, my husband, hadn't known the whole truth. And now, here at his funeral in front of everyone, I was about to reveal it. I leaned closer, lowering my voice to a whisper so faint that even the wind outside seemed to pause to listen. "Peter, my dear boy, do you truly wish to know the truth? The truth that your grandfather and I have carried all these years?" He didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on mine, dark, unreadable, but I could see the flicker of curiosity and fear. And in that instant I knew I had him. I had the moment where everything could change. I took a deep breath. My hands shook, and the wooden floor beneath my feet creaked, echoing like the ticking of a clock counting down something I could not yet name. "Then, I will tell you. But you must promise to listen. To hear me before it's too late." He nodded slightly, though his expression did not soften. And then as I began to speak, the air shifted. The candles lining the chapel flickered, shadows dancing across the walls, forming shapes that seemed almost alive. The rain outside intensified, hammering against the roof like a warning. "Many years ago," I began, my voice trembling, "before you were born, before your mother even thought she wanted a family, your grandfather and I made a promise that would bind us in ways no one could ever imagine." I paused, letting the silence hang, heavy and thick. And in keeping that promise, we uncovered something dangerous. Something that changed everything we thought we knew about our family. I could see Peter leaning in slightly, curiosity winning over his anger. And I knew I had his attention. But how much could I reveal here, in front of everyone? The secret, it was not just about us. It was about a shadow that had followed our family for generations. Whispers of betrayal, old grudges, and something hidden. Now, my dear viewers, let me ask you this. If you discovered that your family had been hiding a secret for decades, a secret that could change everything you believed, would you want to know the truth? Or would you leave it buried, safe under the floorboards of memory? Think about that. And while you do, remember to like, share, and subscribe if this story is gripping you already. I promise, the truth only gets darker from here. I took another breath, the smell of wet rain and polished wood filling my senses. Peter, I continued, lowering my voice, what I am about to tell you, it may scare you. It may change how you see this family. But it is the truth. And tonight, the truth will no longer hide. The room seemed to shrink around us. Shadows lengthened. The murmurs of the other guests faded into a dull hum. And then, I saw it. Something flicker in the corner of the chapel, near the old piano that hadn't been touched in years. A shadow, too dark to be cast by any candle, moved just slightly, as if acknowledging the words we had just spoken. And I knew in that instant that what I was about to reveal would ripple far beyond this room, beyond this funeral, and far deeper than any of us could imagine. My dears, you think funerals are about endings. But sometimes they are just the beginning of truths we never wanted to face. After Peter's words, after that cold whisper that sliced through me like a blade, I felt the walls of the chapel closing in. Everyone else murmured, comforted one another, but I knew that the real story, the real horror had only just begun. That night, after the chapel emptied and the last of the mourners had gone, I returned to our old house. Henry's coat still hung by the door, as if waiting for him. I ran my hand along the fabric, feeling the familiar texture, and felt a pang in my chest, an ache so deep I could barely breathe. The house was quiet, but not in the comforting way it had been when I was a child. No, it was quiet like a held breath, a secret waiting to break free. I let Peter inside. He was silent, eyes darting to every corner as if expecting shadows to reach out for him. Why are you bringing me here? He asked, voice low. But I didn't answer. Not yet. Some things must be shown, not told. We walked through the hall, past the dining table, past Henry's empty chair. My hand shook, but I kept moving. And then I stopped. My fingers brushed against the wall, tracing a familiar seam, one that had been in this house for decades, yet almost invisible. A seam that hid a door. You see this? I whispered, my voice trembling. Not many know about it. Not even your mother. Peter's eyes widened. He leaned closer. A secret room? I nodded slowly. Yes, a room that holds pieces of our family that were never meant to be found. Things that might explain why some of us are as we are. I pressed my hand against the seam, feeling the worn wood, the small notch carved into it. A click echoed softly, almost like a whisper, and the door swung open with a creak that made Peter flinch. Inside it was dark, the kind of darkness that seems to breathe, thick and almost alive. I lit a candle, its flame trembling as if afraid of what it was about to reveal. The room smelled of dust, old paper and something metallic. I stepped inside, gesturing for Peter to follow. Everything here, I said softly, has been kept hidden for generations. Diaries, letters, old photographs. Even things that should never be touched. Peter stepped closer, his gaze scanning the room, lingering on shadows that seemed to move just beyond the candlelight. Grandma, why now? He asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. I swallowed, feeling the weight of years pressing on me. Because, my dear boy, tonight you asked for the truth. And the truth has its own way of demanding an audience. I moved toward a small locked chest tucked in the corner. The lock was rusty, but it yielded easily under my careful touch. Inside there were letters, brittle and yellowed, diaries with cracked leather covers, and photographs that made my heart ache. I pulled out a photograph, a young Henry and I smiling, a secret in our eyes. And behind it, a folded piece of paper. Peter leaned in, curiosity and fear etched across his face. What is that? I hesitated. My fingers trembled as I unfolded the paper. It was a note written in Henry's hand, dated 47 years ago, words smudged with age. And it was addressed to me. Dearest Evelyn, I read aloud, my voice catching. If anything should happen to me, and our family is ever torn by betrayal or anger, you must reveal the truth I kept hidden. It is dangerous, yes, but necessary. Protect the innocent, expose the guilty, and never let our legacy die in silence. Peter's face was pale. What does it mean? I looked at him, my eyes glistening. It means that everything we believed about our family, about loyalty, love, betrayal, it is all a lie. And you are standing on the edge of understanding it. The room seemed to close in around us. Shadows stretched from the corners, flickering with the candlelight, and I thought I heard whispers just faint, almost like the house itself was speaking. I could see Peter shivering, his face pale in the dim glow. Grandma, I don't understand. I took a deep breath, forcing my voice steady. Peter, do you remember the stories I used to tell you? About the old family, the ones who vanished, the secrets buried in letters and locked rooms? Those were not just stories. They were warnings. And tonight, the warnings are no longer hidden. He looked around, suddenly aware of the shadows, the damp smell of the walls, the way the candle flickered and cast shapes that almost seemed to move. Grandma, are we in danger? I shook my head softly. Not danger yet. But curiosity can be dangerous too. Some things once uncovered cannot be unseen. You must be ready for what is coming. Because these letters, this room, they are only the beginning. I picked up another diary, its cover cracked and brittle. This diary belonged to your great-grandmother. She wrote of whispers at night, of footsteps in empty halls, of voices she could not explain. She warned us that the shadows in this house are not always just shadows. Peter's eyes were wide. He swallowed hard, his lips trembling. Shadows? I nodded. Yes, shadows that remember. Shadows that hold secrets. And they know when the truth is about to be revealed. The air in the hidden room grew colder. The candle flickered violently, and for a brief moment, I could have sworn I saw a figure, standing just behind Peter watching. But when I blinked it was gone. Only the shadows remained. I turned back to Peter, taking his hand gently. You see, my dear boy, family is not just what we share in daylight. It is what we inherit in the dark. The secrets, the betrayals, the love that cannot be spoken aloud. And sometimes the ones we trust the most can hurt us the deepest. He didn't speak. He only nodded, eyes still fixed on the shadows. I knew he was beginning to understand, beginning to feel the weight of what I had carried for decades. And I knew that the real revelation was still ahead. My dears, tell me, if you found a hidden room in your house full of secrets about your family, would you open it? Or would you leave it locked forever? Think carefully, and let me know in the comments. Remember to like, share and subscribe if this story chills you already. Because what comes next, I promise, is darker than you can imagine. And that, my darlings, is where chapter 2 ends. But next we discover the first major clue hidden in those diaries, the one that will set Peter, and all of us, on a path we cannot turn back from. My dears, if you thought the hidden room was the end of our secrets, you would be mistaken. That night, as Peter and I sat among the candlelight and dust, I opened the first diary. Its leather was cracked, brittle with age, and the pages smelled of ink and time itself. The moment I turned the cover, a chill ran through the room, and I swear the shadows shifted just to watch us. The handwriting was familiar yet strange, like a ghost speaking through the pen. My great-grandmother had written these pages decades ago, and I had kept them hidden, afraid of what they might reveal. Tonight, though, there was no more hiding. Peter needed to see the truth, needed to understand why he had whispered those terrible words in the chapel. I began reading aloud, my voice trembling but steady. December 12th, 1948. The house remembers. The shadows remember. And the sins of the past will echo through every generation. Henry, Evelyn, you must be careful. Not everyone who smiles is loyal. Not every whisper is harmless. Peter's eyes were wide. Grandma, what is she talking about? I hesitated. Some things are too heavy for a young man's heart, even for him. But the truth must be faced. She's talking about betrayal, Peter. Betrayal that runs deeper than anyone dares to imagine. There are people in our family who would kill for secrets, who would destroy love to protect power. I flipped the page carefully. The handwriting grew more frantic, each word soaked in fear and urgency. They will try to turn you against each other. They will whisper lies, even when hearts are open. But remember this, light always reveals what the darkness hides, if you have courage to see it. Peter's fingers trembled as he reached for the diary. Grandma, is this about me? About what I said today? I shook my head slowly. No, my dear boy. This is the reason why you said it. There are forces, secrets, shadows that you inherited without knowing. And tonight, we are beginning to uncover them. I turned another page and a photograph slipped out, falling to the floor. I picked it up carefully, holding it to the candlelight. It was a picture of a young Henry, standing with a woman I did not recognize, her eyes sharp, almost cruel, and her smile a warning. Something about it made my chest tighten, a cold reminder that Henry had kept things from me too. Peter bent closer. Who is she? I swallowed, my voice barely above a whisper. Someone from the past. Someone who shaped our family in ways I never understood until now. And her shadow, it lingers even tonight. The diary continued, speaking of locked rooms, hidden letters, and whispers in empty hallways. It spoke of footsteps that came when no one was home, shadows that stretched unnaturally, and voices that called out names long dead. Every page, every word made the air heavier, the shadows darker. Peter shivered, and I reached over, taking his hand, feeling the tremor of fear that matched my own. "Grandma," he said softly, "why did no one ever tell me this?" "Because Peter," I said, voice trembling, "some truths are too dangerous for a child, too dangerous even for a man. But now you have to know. You have to see what our family has been hiding for generations. And you will help me decide what to do next." We sat in silence for a moment, the candle flickering wildly, casting monstrous shapes on the walls. And then, I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Not from the hallway but from somewhere deep within the house. Shadows danced along the corners of the room, reaching for us, whispering in a language I did not recognize. "Did you hear that?" Peter whispered, panic threading his voice. I nodded, my heart pounding. "Yes, but do not be afraid. The house is old, it remembers. And it tells us stories. Sometimes warnings, sometimes threats. But tonight, it is speaking the truth." I turned back to the diary. The next page revealed something I had feared. A secret about Henry, about a hidden will, a betrayal of trust that could explain Peter's anger at the funeral. My hands shook as I read the words aloud. Henry, in his youth, made a promise to protect a secret that should never have been revealed. But if it comes to light, it could destroy our family. Evelyn, you must safeguard it. You alone hold the key to peace. Peter's eyes widened. "Grandma, is this why I said what I said? Because of the secret?" "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, my dear. You sensed it. You felt the weight of it even without knowing the full truth. And now we must uncover everything, or the shadows will consume us." I saw the fear in his eyes, but also something else. A spark. Curiosity. The kind that drives people to uncover what is hidden, even at great risk. And then the diary revealed a clue, a tiny detail that made my blood run cold. A reference to a hidden compartment, behind the library shelf, where a final letter awaited, the letter that could explain everything, and maybe even protect Peter from the darkness that lingered. "Tomorrow night," I said softly, "we will go to the library. There is a secret Henry kept, a final message hidden for decades. It may answer the questions that haunt you, and reveal truths you were never meant to see." Peter nodded, swallowing hard, his fingers brushing mine. "Grandma, I'm scared." I smiled, though my lips trembled. "So am I, my dear. But sometimes, fear is the only thing that proves we are alive." The candle flickered one last time, throwing shadows that seemed almost alive across the walls. Footsteps echoed again, soft and deliberate, as if someone or something was listening. I felt it in my bones. The house was alive with secrets, and tonight it had only begun to speak. My dears, the night air was heavy with rain, the kind that seeps into your bones and whispers of things you'd rather forget. Peter and I returned to the house after dinner, the shadows stretching long across the floor as if eager to greet us. I could feel the house itself holding its breath, knowing that we were about to uncover something it had kept hidden for decades. The library was quiet, cloaked in darkness except for the faint glow of a single candle I carried. Dust danced in the beam, moving like tiny spirits circling around us. Peter hesitated at the door, his hand brushing the handle lightly, but I took his hand, steadying him. "Do not be afraid, my dear. Fear is the companion of truth. Tonight it guides us." He swallowed and nodded. "Grandma, what are we looking for again?" I smiled faintly, though my lips trembled. "A letter. Written by your grandfather. Hidden behind the library shelf. It contains truths that may change everything you thought you knew about our family." I moved toward the bookshelf, running my fingers along the edges, feeling for the seam I had memorized decades ago. There, behind the third shelf from the left, I found the faint outline of a small panel. My fingers traced it carefully. A gentle push, a click, and the panel swung inward to reveal a tiny compartment, cloaked in darkness. Peter leaned closer, eyes wide. "Grandma, it's real." I nodded, my heart pounding. "Yes, real. And what is inside may terrify you." Inside the compartment lay a single envelope, yellowed with age, tied with a faded red ribbon. I picked it up, feeling the brittle paper tremble beneath my fingers. The envelope was addressed in Henry's handwriting, "To Evelyn, if the truth must be revealed." I broke the seal slowly, as if every second mattered. Inside was a letter folded carefully, the ink slightly smudged with time. I unfolded it and began to read aloud, my voice quivering. "My dearest Evelyn, if you are reading this, then the shadows have grown too loud to ignore. The family has been bound by secrets for generations, secrets that are dangerous, even deadly. I have kept this from you to protect you and Peter, but now it is time. Your grandson has sensed the darkness in ways you cannot yet understand. He feels the weight of what we have hidden, though he does not know the entirety. You must reveal the truth carefully. The woman in the photograph you saw years ago, her name is Margaret. She was once part of our family, though she sought power above all else. She cursed our lineage, promising that betrayal would follow every generation. Evelyn, you must guide Peter. Show him the letters, the diaries, the shadows, but protect him from the final truth until he is ready. And remember, some shadows are alive. They can listen. They can follow. And some they can punish those who seek them too early." I paused, my trembling hands clutching the letter. Peter's face was pale, his eyes fixed on mine. "Grandma, what does it mean? Alive shadows? Punish." I sighed deeply, my voice almost a whisper. "It means our family is not just haunted by memory or lies. It is haunted by Margaret, and the curse she left behind. And she has a way of knowing who seeks the truth even now." Suddenly, I felt a chill on the back of my neck, like icy fingers brushing my skin. The candle flickered violently, and shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls. Peter gasped. Did you see that?" I nodded. "Yes. It is always watching, always waiting, and it knows when we have crossed a line." I took a deep breath, forcing calm into my trembling voice. "Peter, we have come too far to turn back now. The house will guide us, or it will warn us. But the choice is ours to face. Are you ready to see what lies beyond the letter?" He hesitated, swallowing hard, and then slowly he nodded. "Yes. I need to know. I need to understand." I led him deeper into the library, past shelves of old books whose spines were cracked and faded, past forgotten photographs of ancestors who stared silently from their frames. Every step echoed softly, as though the house itself was listening to us, judging us. And then we reached the far corner, where another subtle seam in the wall caught my attention. My fingers traced it carefully. Another hidden compartment. Inside, a bundle of letters, old photographs, and what looked like a small worn key. My heart skipped. "The key," I whispered, "opens the last secret room, the one your grandfather warned me about. It is locked for a reason, and tonight it may finally be time to open it." Peter's hand trembled as he reached for the key. "Grandma, do we dare?" I nodded. "We must. We cannot hide from the shadows forever. Some truths demand courage, even when fear claws at your soul." And then as I held the key, a whisper echoed softly through the library, almost like a voice from the walls. "Turn the lock, or regret forever." Peter froze, eyes wide, and I felt the candle flicker violently again, casting long, monstrous shadows that stretched across the walls, almost alive. I took a deep breath, holding his hand tightly. "My dear boy, whatever waits behind that door, we face it together. And remember, fear is a guide, not an enemy." The shadows leaned closer, the air grew colder, and the house seemed to hum with anticipation. Tonight, the final truth would begin to emerge, and nothing would ever be the same again. My dears, if you thought shadows were just tricks of the light, you would be mistaken. That night, holding the key in my trembling hands, Peter and I approached the door at the far end of the library. It had been locked for decades, a sentinel guarding truths that were meant to remain buried. And yet, here we were about to cross the threshold. The key turned with a soft click, almost like a sigh escaping the house itself. The door creaked open, revealing darkness so thick it seemed to swallow the candlelight. I stepped in first, Peter close behind, his fingers brushing mine for courage. The air was cold, damp, and smelled of old wood, leather, and something metallic like rust or blood. Inside, the room was small, but packed with relics that spoke of our family's long, tangled history. Dusty portraits lined the walls, faces staring at us with silent accusation. There were journals stacked on shelves, boxes tied with faded ribbons, and a large ornate chest in the corner, locked and heavy, as though it held the weight of decades. Peter swallowed hard. "Grandma, it's like a tomb." I nodded, my voice trembling. "Yes, a tomb of memories, secrets, and shadows. But tonight, the tomb speaks to us and we must listen." I stepped closer to the chest, brushing away decades of dust. The lock was intricate, but the key fit perfectly. I hesitated, feeling a chill crawl along my spine. The house seemed to whisper around us, a low hum, almost like breathing. I glanced at Peter, whose face was pale but resolute. "Together," he whispered. Together we lifted the lid. The chest creaked open, and the candlelight fell on its contents. Letters, photographs, and a small leather-bound journal with a strange emblem embossed on the cover. Picked it up carefully. The emblem was familiar, the same symbol I had seen in Margaret's photographs. A warning, a sigil of something dark. Peter leaned closer. "Grandma, should we read it?" I nodded slowly, my voice trembling but firm. "Yes, but carefully. This journal belonged to Margaret herself. It may tell us why she cursed our family, why shadows have followed us for generations." I opened the journal, the pages brittle and yellowed. The handwriting was elegant, almost hypnotic, but the words were venomous. Margaret had written of jealousy, manipulation, and power. She had planned to destroy the trust and love in our family, to pit one against the other, to make us doubt our hearts and question our loyalties. She wanted to control us, I whispered, shivering. She wanted fear to rule, shadows to dominate, and secrets to poison everything. Peter's fingers trembled on the page. "Grandma, is this why everything feels wrong sometimes? Why I felt anger, even hatred, without reason?" "Yes, my dear," I replied, tears glistening in my eyes. "The curse of her shadow. It seeps through generations. It twists feelings, clouds judgment, and awakens anger where there should be love. But we are stronger if we face it together." Suddenly, a faint sound echoed through the room. A whisper. Not from outside, but from within the shadows themselves. I froze. Peter gripped my hand tightly. Did you hear that?" he whispered. "Yes," I breathed. "The shadows are watching. They know we've uncovered Margaret's secrets. And some are angry." I turned back to the chest. Inside, beneath the journal, was a small folded note. Picked it up carefully. It was written in Margaret's hand, but the ink was darker, sharper, almost alive. "To those who dare to uncover the past, some doors should remain closed. Some truths will burn you if you are not ready. Beware the shadow that walks among you. And remember, not all who speak are loyal. Not all who love are safe." Peter's face paled. "Grandma, it's a warning." I nodded, my voice trembling. "Yes, a warning. And yet we cannot stop. We must uncover everything if we are to survive, if we are to protect what is left of our family." As I spoke, I felt a cold breath against my neck. I turned quickly, but the room was empty. Only the shadows moved, stretching, shifting, almost alive. I could hear soft footsteps, faint and deliberate, though no one was there. Peter's eyes were wide with fear, but also determination. "Grandma, what do we do now?" I took a deep breath. "Now we follow the clues. Margaret left pieces of herself in this room. Letters, photographs, objects, all of them connected. And one of them may reveal the truth about her curse, and how we can end it." I moved toward a small locked box in the corner, nearly hidden behind a stack of old photographs. The key for this box was missing. I glanced at Peter. "We must find the key. And I have a feeling it is closer than we think." As we searched the room, the candle flickered violently, casting monstrous shadows that danced along the walls. A soft whisper echoed again, almost like a sigh or a warning. "Do not uncover or regret." I looked at Peter, gripping his hand tightly. My dear boy, the shadows are not just stories. They are alive. And Margaret, she is still here in some way. Watching. Waiting. Judging. He nodded, swallowing hard. Grandma, I'm ready. Whatever it is, I'll face it with you. I smiled faintly, though my lips trembled. That is all I could hope for. Now the shadows may guide us, or they may try to stop us. But we must continue. The truth waits for no one. And in that moment I felt it, the house shifting, breathing, alive with secrets. The shadows stretched toward us, almost tangible, as if eager to reveal the final dark secret, or perhaps to swallow us whole. Ah, my dears, the night grew darker, heavier, as if the rain outside had seeped into the very walls of the house. The shadows in the secret room seemed alive now, stretching and twisting, almost breathing, almost whispering. Every creak of the floorboard, every shiver of candlelight, made my heart pound as though warning me to turn back. But we could not. The truth demanded courage, and Peter needed it as much as I did. We searched the room for hours, or at least it felt like hours, though time seemed to lose meaning there. Every stack of photographs, every brittle letter, every diary we opened seemed to whisper warnings. And then I saw it. A tiny hook hidden behind a pile of letters, holding a small iron key. It was cold to the touch, its surface etched with strange markings, almost like Margaret's emblem. Grandma, this must be it, Peter whispered, his voice trembling. I nodded, gripping the key tightly. Yes, my dear. The key to the final chest. And behind that chest the final truth. But be warned, the shadows, they will not let us open it easily. As we approached the chest, a chill filled the room. The candle flickered wildly, shadows leaping across the walls, forming shapes I could almost recognize. Faces, hands, figures reaching out as if trying to stop us. I could hear whispers, soft and deliberate, calling our names. Peter, do you feel that? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He nodded. Yes, it's like the house itself is alive. I took a deep breath, my hands trembling as I inserted the key. The lock clicked open. The chest creaked as I lifted the lid, and a cold gust of air escaped, carrying with it the scent of old parchment, dust, and something else. Something dark. Something alive. Inside lay a bundle of letters tied with crimson ribbon and a small carved box made of dark wood. The box was delicate but heavy, adorned with the same symbol that had haunted the house for decades. I knew immediately. This was Margaret's final artifact, the anchor of her curse. Peter leaned closer. Grandma, should we open it? I hesitated, feeling the weight of generations pressing on me. Yes, but carefully. Whatever is inside may be dangerous, but it may also hold the key to ending this curse. With shaking hands I lifted the lid. Inside was a folded letter and a small blackened stone. The letter was addressed to me, in Margaret's spidery handwriting. To Evelyn, the last guardian of our family's line. If you have opened this chest, then the shadows have already begun to move. The curse is real. It feeds on fear, whispers on betrayal, and follows those who seek the truth without caution. The black stone binds the curse. You must confront it directly. Speak aloud the truths you have uncovered. Admit the lies, the betrayals, the sins. Only then will the shadow's grip weaken. Fail, and the curse will claim you and your grandson, as it has claimed others. Peter's hand shook. Grandma, it's alive, isn't it? I nodded, tears glistening in my eyes. Yes, the curse is alive. And it knows when we are ready, when we are afraid, when we falter. But we cannot falter, Peter, not now. The room grew colder. The candle flickered violently, casting monstrous shadows across the walls. The whispers grew louder, almost intelligible now. Leave, regret, leave. I swallowed hard. Peter, we must speak the truth. Out loud. All of it. Every secret, every betrayal, every lie. It is the only way to weaken her power. He nodded, his face pale but resolute. I can do it, Grandma. I want to. I took a deep breath, my voice trembling but steady. Very well, then repeat after me. We acknowledge the shadows. We accept the truths. We do not fear the darkness, nor the lies hidden in our family. Peter repeated the words, his voice shaky, echoing through the room. And I repeated them too. Slowly, deliberately. The black stone trembled in my hand, a faint hum vibrating through the room, as if responding to our courage. The whispers grew louder for a moment, then began to fade. Shadows stretched, contorted, and then receded, almost as if the house itself exhaled. The candlelight steadied. The air warmed slightly, and the oppressive weight lifted. Peter looked at me, eyes wide. "Grandma, did we do it?" I smiled, though my lips were trembling. "I believe so for now. The curse is weakened, the shadows retreating. But we must remain vigilant. Some secrets, some darkness, never truly disappears." I picked up the black stone, holding it close. This binds the curse. We must keep it safe. And we must remember that truth, courage, and love are the only weapons we have against shadows that feed on fear. Peter exhaled, relief washing over him. "Grandma, I understand now. Everything makes sense. Why I felt anger, why the shadows always seem to follow us. It's all because of her." "Yes, my dear," I whispered. "Margaret wanted us to fail. But we faced her. We faced the shadows. And together we survived." For a moment, silence reigned in the secret room. Only the soft rain tapping against the windows, the faint creak of the floorboards, and our own breathing. And yet, I knew deep in my bones that the shadows would never truly leave. They had been a part of our family for generations. But tonight we had claimed victory. And sometimes, my dears, that is enough. My dears, the house was quiet now, but not peaceful. No, peace is not a word that belongs to a house full of shadows, full of secrets. After weakening Margaret's curse, Peter and I remained in the secret room, candlelight flickering softly, our hands still gripping the black stone. I could feel the weight of generations pressing down on us, yet something in the air told me the end was near. Peter looked at me, his eyes wide, as if expecting the house to speak again. "Grandma, is it really over?" I shook my head gently, my voice trembling. "No, my dear. There is one last truth, one last revelation. Margaret left a secret that even Henry did not know. And it is hidden in the most unlikely place." I led Peter back through the library, past the shadows that now seemed quieter but still alive, and toward the old fireplace. I had always felt something unusual there, though I could never explain it. And now, with the black stone in hand, the truth became clear. Reaching the hearth, I pressed my hand against a loose brick. The stone vibrated softly, almost as if guiding me. With a quiet click, a small hidden compartment opened, revealing a faded, folded letter. I carefully unfolded it, and my breath caught. Peter leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "Grandma, what is it?" I began to read aloud, my voice trembling with emotion. "To Evelyn, the last guardian. If you have come this far, then the shadows have already told you half the truth. The family's betrayal was not just external. It was within. The grandson you fear. He carries not only the weight of anger but also the bloodline of Margaret herself. Yet, Peter, you are part of the lineage that she cursed. The only way to end the shadows is to confront the truth fully. Forgive, reveal, and accept. Only love, even in the face of betrayal, can break the cycle." Peter froze, eyes wide. "Me? I'm part of her line." I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "Yes, my dear boy. That is why the shadows followed you. That is why you whispered those words at the funeral. You sensed the darkness because it is in your blood. But tonight we faced it together. And you survived it." He sank to his knees, overwhelmed, and I wrapped my arms around him. "Peter, listen to me. The curse is weakened, the shadows receding. But the final act, the final truth is ours to choose. We must forgive, we must reveal, and we must accept. Only then will peace find our family." The candle flickered, casting shadows that seemed to dance in approval. I felt a warmth in the room, subtle but unmistakable. The air no longer carried the oppressive weight of fear. Margaret's presence had loosened. Peter looked at me, voice trembling but resolute. "Grandma, what do we do now?" I smiled faintly, my lips quivering. "We live, my dear. We remember. We honor Henry, our family, and the shadows that taught us courage. And we promise never to let fear control our hearts again." We sat there for a long time, surrounded by the remnants of our family's past. The shadows now just shadows, and the whispers faded into silence. I held the black stone carefully, knowing that it was not evil. It was a reminder, a guardian, A key to remembering that darkness always exists, but it does not define us. Peter finally broke the silence. Grandma, do you think will it ever come back? I shook my head gently. Not if we remember, not if we speak the truth, not if we honor love above all else. The shadows may linger, but we are stronger. We are the light. Then in that quiet moment a faint sound reached my ears, a soft creak behind the door. I froze, heart pounding, but when I turned there was nothing. Only the house, silent and still, as if approving of the courage we had shown. Peter leaned against me, exhausted but safe. Grandma, thank you. For everything. I held him close, my voice barely above a whisper. No, my dear. Thank you. For trusting me, for facing the shadows, for believing in love even when fear tried to control you. That is the true legacy of our family. And as we left the secret room, closing the door behind us, I looked back one last time. The shadows were gone, the whispers silenced, and yet, I knew the lessons of the past would stay with us forever. Sometimes, my dears, the greatest truths are hidden in darkness. Sometimes the most terrifying shadows carry the most important lessons. And sometimes, love is the only light strong enough to break a curse. And that, my sweet ones, is our story.